A fight's erupted in the arts community over just who gets to enter a prestigious competition. The Australia Council wants to limit who can apply to design the Australian pavilion at the biggest cultural stage in the world, the Venice Biennale. As Cheryl Hall reports, that decision has sparked outrage.
It was a total experience, and it made complex theories of urban design accessible to the average person.
Photographer John Gollings knows there's no bigger stage for Australian artists trying to impress the world than the Venice Biennale. He received international accolades for his highly successful architectural exhibition at the Australian Pavilion last year.
Normally it's just a bland white box, and it's so dirty and stained that we decided to paint it black and then turn it into an architectural wireframe, so the whole building became an architectural joke.
John Gollings is part of a guerrilla campaign by a group of artists, art collectors and architects who've lobbied for years to have the temporary pavilion rebuilt. And while it may not look quite as humble as this interpretation by artist Callum Morton, an ideas competition funded by Melbourne restaurateur and art collector Ronnie D'Stasio got some inspirational results.
We were staggered. We got 450 odd people entering, and that was conceptual. It was deliberately meant to be. So it was a terrific response, and it was based on a very broad brief. Now we need a proper brief that covers the exhibitions of art and architects, because they are biennial exhibits. And if we get that, then it won't be just about the architecture.
It's a bit of Melbourne versus Sydney, I guess, at this stage, because Melbourne's been pushing now since 2004, and this is the Australia Council coming on board somewhat late and somewhat reluctantly and somewhat confusedly.
The Australia Council did come on board last month when it announced it would rebuild the pavilion. But this week, the terms were spelled out by philanthropist Simon Mordaunt. He is Australian Commissioner for the Venice Biennale in 2013 and has pledged $1 million towards the new pavilion.
Any architect in Australia will be able to submit their credentials. Clearly what we're looking for is a firm that has designed public art spaces before and who has worked in an international context. There'll then be a shortlist developed from those submissions against the credentials that the architects have submitted, and a decision will be made to invite a smaller group to submit designs and budgets for consideration.
That's a process supported by the Australian Institute of Architects, but not by the 650 architects who've signed this petition.
Tanya rang me up in an outrage, and we thought we just had to do something, so we got a campaign happening pretty quickly. The community feels very passionate about this, the architectural community and the arts community.
They're calling for an open competition similar to the ones that produced the Sydney Opera House and Melbourne's Federation Square.
Those sort of competitions have come in since the Opera House, when there was this very wild selective process. People keep complaining about that, but look what we got.
Why wouldn't you hold an open competition so that you can get a whole selection of designs from all of our best architects and artists? Why would you only ask 4 or 5 practices to put forward a design? It just seems outrageous.
Yeah.
But when you go to Venice, you're going to Venice to see what's inside the pavilions. You're not going to look at monuments. These pavilions are relatively small spaces which need to be very flexible. Ultimately, that's going to be a decision for a panel of people, and it will be about the art, really not about creating a monument.
But if the Australia Council goes ahead with its plans, it could be inundated with unsolicited entries.
And the idea would be that entrants in the official competition leak the briefing documents to us, and we'll host those on our website so that anybody that's interested, any architects or members of the public that are interested in entering the competition, using the official kind of brief and documentation, can do so. And the idea would be that people would submit their entry so that the tender box is full of alternate proposals for for the Venice Pavilion.
Janet Holmes-A-Court is the current Venice Commissioner.
My personal view is that philanthropy doesn't include ownership. I support lots of orchestras and musical organisations, but I don't tell them what to play.
I'm not sure it's controversy. There's always a bit of noise. I'm very excited about the passion that exists, and I want to harness that passion.
The government has estimated it will cost $4 to $6 million to develop the compact 300 square metre site. All of it will be raised privately. That hasn't put off others who believe it could take up to $20 million to develop properly.
Every architect in the world who's got some sort of love for Venice and Australia will want this job.
It's kind of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, I think. It's, you know, it's up there with opera houses and museums and so on.
We're not going to give up, and I think if they don't do it officially, there's going to be an underground swell of people wanting an unofficial competition, and those results will certainly be published and measured against whatever the Australia Council picks as the winners.